The 708-737, like to say hi at all?
We'll track it out.
That's okay. We're welcoming to all parties here.
Mm-hmm.
The 708 is the Chicago area code.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. You want to introduce yourself just to everybody? Oh, that's Gracie. I just went into my contacts.
Wonderful.
Hey, Gracie.
Welcome, Gracie.
All right. So this is our election night call, or election week call. This is the final week where we're rolling into vote counting, which is supposed to be happening Friday, May 19th. And so just for everybody who's on the call, we're basically going to talk through what we anticipate our plans are for the day of the election, how votes should be called. We expect votes to be counted based on our discussions with our legal help from the Association of Union Democracy, and what we're planning on doing, based on how the election itself goes. And so we'll kick off this call just by introducing all the candidates who are on the call, including our people who are running for regional board seats and national write-ins. And then we'll get going, and we'll talk about how this is actually going to go, or how we hope it's going to go. So I'll start now just to get over with. My name is John Hieronymus. I'm a nurse at University of Chicago Medical Center in the PACU. I've been a union nurse, proud union nurse for 12 years, in National Nurses United. And I'm running for one of the 4 slots of the Council of Presidents. I'll pass it on to, how about you go, Raina?
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Raina Lenzy. I am here for the second person for the Council of Presidents. I am been a union nurse for 8 years. I work in ICU and Alta Bates Medical Center.
All right, Mark, you want to go?
Hi, my name is Mark Goodick. I've been a registered nurse in California for 19 years, Canadian born, bred, educated. I'm an American citizen now, and I am running for the Council of Presidents with John, Raina, and Eric. And I work at Alta Bates in the formerly ICU exclusively, and now interventional radiology.
Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Eric Koch. Pardon me, I'll see. Hopefully, my video is blocked. I'm sorry. I'm Eric Koch. I've been a nurse for over 30 years. I'm at Alta Bates Hospital and have been on the past 3 negotiating teams. And I am running for the Council of Presidents with the 3 aforementioned that spoke. And we're in the final sprint to the ballot counting this Friday. So hopefully we can talk about that on the call to answer people's questions. Thank you.
Tish, why don't you go?
Hi, Tish Ryan. I work in the cath lab at Community First Medical Center, a very small, privately owned, about 200 nurses are unionized there. I've been a nurse 11 years and respiratory therapy before that.
And how about we go?
Oh, I'm running for treasurer. Sorry, did I say that? Okay.
Yeah, write-in candidate for treasurer. Rhonda, how about you go?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Risner, a registered nurse for 34 years. 29 of that has been in the emergency department. I'm a VA nurse for the last 16 years, and I am running for a Region 15 Board of Director, which covers all the VAs from San Diego to Miami, Florida, and all parts in between.
Awesome. And Barb, how about you go?
Hey everyone, it's Barb. What up? My last name is O'Brien, and I am a nurse at Cook County, and I work in integrated care. And I am a write-in candidate for Region 13 So yeah, and I just sent in my consent today because Tish thankfully warned me that we needed to have a consent in if you're a write-in, like a new consent.
All right. Okay, so we will just go through some of our, there's not like a ton of people on here. How about we, Taka, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Taka Okawa. I'm just I've been a nurse for 12 years now. I work at Sutter Summit and spent a good amount of time over at Alta Bates in Berkeley, in the ICU and telemetry. And I'm just trying to be supportive and help make the changes I think we need for at least an honest CNA.
Awesome. And Kamika, do you want to introduce yourself? Kamika, you're muted. If you're at work, you don't have to introduce yourself, but let us know in the chat. I know Gracie, it sounded to me like you were calling in from work, so you probably just get into the call. All right, so tonight's big discussion is the actual final stretch for the election, including how we expect that the voting is going to happen the day of. Mark has some really good, yeah, absolutely. Mark's got some good information from just like discussions they've had. And I've also spoken with our lawyer from Association for Union Democracy. So I'll go over real quick. We expect that the ballots that everyone filled out are going to be optically scanned based on the format of the ballots. We know that ballots with write-ins will be pulled out by the system. Those will be counted by hand. The intention of the voter is the kind of the standard when it comes to write-ins. So there won't be any, we know all the people who are who've put themselves in for write-in candidates, so we'll be able to keep track of that. We have people who we have designated as our candidates for to be observers. And so as an official candidate, we've had people who you're allowed to go observe the vote counting, or you can designate someone for yourself. So I've gone ahead and designated a nurse who's in the Bay, who's been always there for us, and I'm very excited for them to be there helping keep an eye on things. And the union has laid out some rules. We believe the rules are designed to keep the process opaque. There are unions that live stream vote counts. This is very tightly clamped down. No one is allowed to mark down what they think the votes are. Though we can't communicate, people from inside the observing can communicate with those outside. And hopefully we'll have a little crowd outside the HQ, kind of keeping an eye on things and getting ready to celebrate or to rally if we need to. So that all being said, I'll pass on to Mark, who's got some more updates from how the ballot voting process, as far as we know, is going to be going. So I'll pass it on to you, Mark.
So this is our first time, so we're just collecting information as best we can. So to the best of our knowledge, the way things will play out on Friday morning is that the ballot committee will meet with the third-party canvassing agency of Kelly Press that we're handling the email canvassing. They will meet with them. They will drive to the post office. There's 3 in Oakland. I'm not sure exactly which one, but whichever one we all mailed off our ballots to. And there's a PO box there. And so that PO box is only accessible to the postmaster and the Kelly Press people. And all ballots will be sent there are just going to be completely to one box. So they're not going to be divided by, say, region at all. And then everything's going to be collected at that post office and then loaded into this van and then going to be driven back to CNA headquarters. They would hope to have things ready by 9 o'clock, but depending on traffic, it could be later. And then I'm not sure what happens. They pull up, and then I don't know if there's any hired goons to walk them all in. And then the only identifiers on those ballots are the external envelopes, which will be removed, and then you have a nondescript ballot. And as we mentioned, for those of us old enough, I don't know if it's still in vogue or not in the schooling system, but it's a fill in the dots sheet reminiscent of the Scantron sheets for examinations. And then, as John has mentioned, anything that has write-ins will have to be visually looked at and tallied. And so that's probably going to be the one factor that's going to make counting a more lengthy process. And I've learned that in past elections, it has never been used before. It has never been used before, and it would have been good to know that that even existed, because when we finally started getting our first ballots, it was a big surprise. It's like, oh my God, there's like a bonus round. There's like a second chance. You got a free card to play, and just shows you still had a second chance in there. Conceivably, there could have been an entire another slate running for the presidency if somebody were so inclined. And then John mentioned, well, hopefully we'll have a presence outside as well. There are strict guidelines that we'll have to adhere to. We've made our application. So Eric, myself, Raina, and John's surrogate will all be present. And just keeping an eye on things.
All right. So we, depending on how the write-ins go and how many people do actually, how many ballots that are written in, I expect that the voting itself will probably be wrapped up on Friday. We kind of anticipate, several different scenarios where we could have an outright win, which we will very joyously be making the news across California and probably out through other areas where our union has a presence. If we don't have an outright win and it's a close loss, meaning a few hundred ballots, we lose by a few hundred ballots, we will be filing with the Department of Labor. We'll file with the union initially for an investigation, because we know that there's been interference by staff in how the election itself is played out. Though in spite of that interference, we feel very confident that this is going to be that we have a good chance of winning. And after the union completes its own investigation, we'll go with file with the Department of Labor, and the Department of Labor will take a look at all the evidence presented. And there's the potential or probability, given what we know, that if the union is close and we contest it, that they will basically order a do-over, which will be closely monitored, federally run election, which will give us a much better chance. We'll have an opportunity to win. That will, we'll do the internal contestation first, but then we'll also go through the Department of Labor process if once that process is wrapped up. That can take that will take some months, just so that everyone is aware. And then if we have an outright loss that is not contestable, this isn't the end of our organizing. We are planning on continuing the fight to build our power inside of our union, to build our base of knowledge inside the union, so that everybody knows how that our union works, so that in 3 years, when the next round comes, we will be much better prepared for, and much better organized. Not that we weren't very organized this time around. I think we surprised people with how organized we were. But we anticipate that we will continue the fight regardless of how this, the actual results and the outcome of this election goes. Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to mention that I have to tell you that I don't know how many write-ins. I think, John, from Chicago, we're going to have a lot of write-ins, correct?
Mhm.
I can tell you that I think from Region 6, which is the Modesto area, there's a man named John Schneider who's pushing to be on the board, and he's supportive of shift change. I have to tell you, that's a lot of write-in votes. Like just having Tish run, it's like they're going to have to stop. Every ballot that is shift change is going to have pretty much Tish on it. If it comes from Modesto, it's also going to have John on it. There's going to be a lot of pulling aside those ballots. And I don't know, Mark, we were not able to find this out. Do they take it apart and say, oh, here we go. Oh, here we have a treasurer vote for Tish. And do they make a little mark on a whiteboard? And then after they get 100 tallies, they cross it out and write 100. And then, you know, what do we do? Oh, then they have John Schneider, Region 6. So we don't know how far that is going to go. And I have to tell you, I'm expecting that we either go throughout, I don't know when they're going to stop the counting, but I have a feeling I think Mark and I are willing, as would Torrell, to stay there until the count is done. And if that means we count all night to Saturday morning, I don't care.
Oh yeah,
We'll
I'll
be
bring a
there.
sleeping bag. I'll bring a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I have every intention to see the count through. I do not want to leave them alone with our ballots. And I'm not being conspiratorial. I just think it's in our best interest to make sure that things are fair and very forward in favor of transparency. I disagree with you, John. I think it's going to be a long, long time to count those ballots, because I know that, can we just put a guesstimate out to everybody, Rhonda, everybody? I think there's probably going to be at least between 5,000 and 10,000 votes. Am I out of range there, or do people think less or more?
It's
So
going to be more than 1% is what it's going to be. But, you know,
of course,
you really don't know. We really don't know. You know, how far has the message gotten out to people? And then we found out that people we didn't even know just voted for us because they were tired of the incumbents or tired of the same old. And then they found
I don't know. There are some new people here, but just to tell you that there was a hospital that I had no intention of, you know, I didn't think we had a chance at, and I wasn't going to waste my time because they were so intransigent against us at the common table near Sacramento, that I found out recently that our shift change buttons are appearing throughout that hospital. So part of it is not even our message. It's just our symbol, the symbol of us, that there is somebody who's saying hell no to the way things are going. And win, lose or draw, I think we're going in the right direction.
Eric,
Well, I thought you did.
Hold on. I'm going to mute.
It's
just
sort
real
of tough.
quick.
You want to.
I
Sorry.
agree with you, Mark. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to tell. And like Eric said, I mean, I got a few texts from people from like that just so happened to get my number from the labor notes thing that we did here in Oakland. And they, you know, some of them were like, oh, okay, you know, who are we supposed to be voting for? Like, well, who are these people? And I sent them, you know, your webpage and all that stuff. But it was also like, oh, that's what I thought, you know, like, because I didn't recognize the names. So people are, I feel like more people are paying attention than, you know, yeah, anyway, from places that we're not really in contact with. So word is spreading for sure.
Go ahead, Rhonda. You're muted still.
I think there's going to be a lot of write-ins from Region 15, because not only do we have write-ins for Tish and others, but Irma Westmoreland actually went on her Facebook page as the leader of NNUVA chair and instructed people to not support me or Aaron McLean and to write in candidates instead. So she is basically, our ballots are going to be tied up with our write-ins of legitimate people that we're running. And hers are going to be, I mean, she didn't even try to organize that or orchestrate that to say, let's run, you know, Nurse Smith from San Diego. Instead, she said, just write in 2 candidates who support Region 15 and your union, implying that Aaron and I did not support either, which was pretty infuriating, you know, to me personally and professionally. But I think she's going to hang up every Region 15 ballot that's even on her side unknowingly, just because she's asking people not to support me or Aaron and support and to write in other people.
I do think that we will, regardless, see a historic turnout in our unions with this election. I believe that our union has not in years and years seen as many people vote as they're about to see vote this week. And so I agree, Eric, it could go all night. I think we should have plans for people to sleep in shifts and make sure that there's folks that are always up and ready to go. We've got, you know, whatever we need to do to keep everyone's caffeine and pizzaed up and all the good stuff that we need whenever we're doing anything important like this that goes later than we expect. I try to not to get too excited about what the potentials are, but I also do want to like put this on the record. We're going to see a historic turnout because I believe, as everyone has said, people are paying attention to this election in a way that I don't think that they've thought was something that was even, I didn't believe it was possible that we'd get to this point. So I think we have spread much further than we have spread than we had started. We've kind of grown by leaps and bounds. We were in hospitals that, you know, I just didn't imagine that we'd have a voice in. And as we're hearing, we're popping up in places where we didn't even anticipate the sort of like anyone to be paying attention. So that being said, we're going to be ready to go for a variety of different outcomes for this. If we win, that also doesn't mean that the organizing is over. We have to prepare for the sitting of us at the convention in October. We will be building a strategy and organizing around what needs to happen to make sure that's a smooth transition. Hopefully the incumbents are, you know, good spirited and understand that we're doing all of this out of our like personal interest and concern in the state of the union, and that we all want our union to be powerful and strong, and we'll be cooperative as we kind of go forward. But we also anticipate that that may not be the case, and we'll be prepared one way or the other. So all that being said, we're going to have to be building through the summer, are continuing to build our organizing. We'll continue to reach out to the people who have shown support to us, getting people up and ready to go, building the internal like democratic culture in our union, and working on, as Mark has said before in the past, building up our own independent like web infrastructure so that we can have our own forums. Those are things that we can do over the summer. We need to come up with a plan for how we're going to like do all the big things that we think need to do for our union to be powerful and strong. And that transition is going to be, it's going to be a roller coaster, and I'm looking forward to it. Does anyone have any thoughts or suggestions about things that they would like to see continue after this week, regardless of how things go?
Well, I think win, lose, or draw, don't we have to continue? I mean, obviously, I think we should take a break after the 19th. Win, lose, or draw, we need to take a breather for just a little bit, because I think we've all been kind of pretty exhausted here. But I think we need to continue win, lose, or draw, whether we If we lose, I'm just saying we didn't lose. We just continue to fight and get ready for the next candidates for shift change. And we need to make this shift change. We need to, we've talked about this before. It needs to spread into Florida, the Carolinas, Texas, New York, Minnesota. We need to bring more people into this. And I think it's going to be an onslaught, a tsunami to them, that there are people, as we know, dissatisfied with how things are running in Minnesota, New York, Chicago, everywhere. And we've done incredible, not tooting our own horn. John has been incredible. Mark with his creativity with the videos, and Raina has been speaking out and getting a lot of people. But we did this kind of on a shoestring. We did this like we were the devil in Milton's Paradise Lost. Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. We were going to change this union, maybe not this time, but we were going to put that fight in. And I think we're pretty close to possibly winning it this time too. But I think it's not over. And whether we win, when we win, it's going to be a hell of a struggle to change this union's culture to one of transparency, because let's admit it, you cannot have an organization that is opaque as ours is right now. And as we've mentioned earlier, yes, we lost the Wobblies, the socialists, the people that helped empower us initially with this union. We need to bring those people back, find new people, and we need to get nurses at the center of this union again. It's going to be a struggle for 3 years, and we need to have more leaders. Roseanne DeMoro did say one time, she says, leaders are never born, they're cornered. So we need to corner some good people, some young people who have some great ideas, and get them and push them to the forefront. So go ahead, Mark and Rhonda. Thank you.
Rhonda, you were hand up first, and then Mark.
Yeah, so we need to continue building this, having meetings, continue. But I don't know if you guys are aware of this, that, next, I believe 2024, you can run for Council of Presidents for National Nurses United. So there's another bite at this apple. So, I mean, this is for CNA and NOC Council of Presidents, but National Nurses United also has 4 councils of presidents, or 3 COPs, 3 or 4. I think it's 4. And so we can do this again in a year. We don't have to wait for 3 years. Just saying.
Thank you, Rhonda. We will definitely come up with plans.
Very interesting.
I will, before you go, Mark, I'll also point out we are in touch with people in Minnesota, in the Minnesota Nurse Association. We are in touch with nurses in NISNA. These are all the affiliate unions that are affiliated with CNA NNU. So I think that we're going to continue to build, continue to reach out, continue to expand our base so that we can do that, realistically. Yeah, absolutely. So that we can continue to put pressure on our existing leadership and take over where we can. Mark, your hand's been up. You've been patient.
Yes. So just in regards to win, lose, or draw, I think either way, still we've set up great foundations and building awareness, and we should continue with that momentum. Something that was mentioned to me that was of concern to this person was how many of the board positions are running unopposed. That was very significant. And you don't have to. Sometimes only 1% of the population in our union, I think, are actually engaged and involved in what's going on, and we're raising that percentage. And people need to understand it's not it's not a meritocracy, but merit is good and experience is good. But anybody can step forward, raise their hand, volunteer to serve, and show up. And I think the next election, we should ensure, or we should be encouraging that there is at least one person for every position that is being, being challenged. We should have every position challenged. There should be no position unopposed.
Absolutely. Another thing, so we're already are building the base of knowledge so I hope that by the time we're all done with this, win, lose, or draw, as we keep saying, that no one can come and in our union can say, I don't know how our union works. I don't know how to run for union leadership. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that we continue to expand our videos so that people can sit down and watch and see, so we can lay it all out for people. So it's very clear to everyone, crystal clear to anyone who wants to have an impact on how our union works, that they can get that information out there, and that we're going to help provide it. We've already got, I believe, something like over 10 collective bargaining agreements that we're going to be posting on our website here in the next 1 to 2 weeks, so that we're going to build our database of collective bargaining agreements, so that nurses who are going into collective bargaining campaign can look at what other facilities have won. That's definitely something that we can do now. We don't have to wait to win. And just continuing to show a presence on continue to hold regular meetings and building our capacity and relationships. We've had calls for people who are asking us to do a pre-convention convention. So having a meeting before the convention in Oakland when it happens, so that we can, we don't want to repeat the missteps in the past where people took a step and did something that was courageous and big at the convention, and then no one knew how to get in touch with those people. There was no organizing to bring those people in. We want to be extending a hand to any nurse who wants to talk with us in good faith at the convention, because we know that lots of people will be showing up at the convention aren't coming because they are towing a line or anything else. They just are union activists who the union depends on to show up to kind of do that work. And yeah, we're going to keep expanding our knowledge of how the bylaws work in all these different organizational structures, so that we can start building that. As Mark said, never having uncontested. We should not be having uncontested elections anymore. There's been a little chat in the side about some of our with people in, some of our people who have been supporting can't even vote right now because they're not having dues taken. That doesn't, our folks down in Texas, we still want you all involved, and we want to continue to keep this space open to people who are in newly organized units who aren't officially able to participate at that level. But we do think that your participation, Lisa, and your coworkers from Texas has been really invaluable, and we're glad that we've been able to connect, and that you've been here with us. So we're very excited that we've been able to make that connection. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions? I think we're coming in on about 45 minutes.
Actually,
Eric, you wanna go?
Ron, I think it would be important. Michael is a write-in candidate for 1C. Michael, did you send in a consent to serve?
I thought I did, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Because I just want to make sure that you don't win the election and get screwed out of being able to be on the board because of some technicality. So we definitely want to make sure that everything is above board and everybody's union dues didn't mysteriously stop getting taken out. But make sure you check that. Mark had an excellent idea on that. And also, John, we were just going to say that there were some concerns, and I think most of us know that this is not the case. Our running is going to make a better union. There is no doubt we are making a better union. In the short term, they are embarrassed and they will claim to us. I was told this by a person that was in a high position in the union about a month ago. I wish you hadn't done this. I wish you could have kept this private and not fought in public, because now everybody, you're airing our business. And my response to her was, I did come to people. I came to you and I came to Bonnie. And nothing was done. I was gaslit. We were gaslit as an institution. Alta Bates Summit Hospital was gaslit. And by extension, so were 16 other Sutter tables. So those number of nurses were infringed upon. Their future economic and social well-being in their workplace was affected by CNA's inability to represent those nurses in the best way possible. And I believe that at the bottom of my heart. I know that I am correct in saying that. And I know Michael, Olivia, and Ann would agree with me on that. And Mark, I'm just saying that the 4 people on the negotiating team that are on here right now. I don't think we may hurt the union in terms of when they go out and try to steal other unions, other nursing unions, hospitals, and when they go out to try to organize, people will throw this back at them. I read what you did at Alta Bates Summit. I read what you did in California. But you know what? We're bringing them back. We're dragging them. We may hurt them in the short term, but we're allowing our nursing union, once we get it under reform, to blossom and exponentially expand, to be more powerful than it is now, not by using nasty backroom deals and negatively affecting nurses. We're truly going to empower nurses. That's what grew this union in the first place. We had those wobblies, those socialists, those true believers in workers. That's what grew this union. People that were like, I mean, sometimes I'd be like, man, I wish he'd settle down, or I wish he'd settle down. They were so exuberant in our defense as nurses. I mean, I'd be like, gosh, just settle down. I don't want you to hurt yourself. It was empowering. And now it's the opposite. We're having our own union. We're having to drag our union into fights. We're having to drag our union to represent us. And that's got to change. So yes, we may affect their ability to expand the union. And frankly, I don't want our union to expand if it expands with this kind of corruption, with this kind of inability to really deal with nurses up front. So I know that this has been brought up to me. Do you think we're hurting the union? Do you think you're hurting the union when you bring this stuff in the public and on YouTube?
Nope.
Yeah, no, I
Nope.
think in the long run, we're empowering the union. And Mark, can you want to talk about what we talked about this afternoon? What we would do as nurses if we made a mistake?
If you made a mistake, what do you do as a nurse? If you made a mistake what would you do? Would you hide it, or would you come forward, in the best interest of the patient, admit what was done, and then put measures, accept responsibility, transparency, and accountability, and then make measures to make sure that doesn't happen again, either to yourself or any other person that follows. So yes, we want to call out impropriety. We want to call out impropriety, and the most trusted profession. Okay, you know what? Maybe we're going to get a black eye, but by being truthful and honest, I think in the long run will strengthen our reputation, and will turn us into a union. Like as Eric's saying, all you're doing is just hijacking other hospitals and other unions. It's like, no, changing internally, where people say, okay, there's some rough stuff that went on there, but I see that you've made changes, and we've read your bylaws because they're public record. And we see that you've made measures to ensure that corruption cannot happen, or improprieties, and make it a union that other people that are non-union would look at and say, where do I sign up? You don't have to go in and convince them. They're going to beat a path down to your door and say, we want in.
I think we're building we're building leadership. We know that, the people who are currently in charge can't be in charge forever. And we have to, we corner leaders, but leaders are also forged through, organizing and struggle. And if we don't do this now, who's going to be there when, the final light flickers out of the current people who have been in charge, and where will we be? So I look at this as like, we want to fight. This is maybe a little bit of tough love. And if people are concerned that we're taking things out in public, well, where has the union created the space for these internal discussions to happen, as in other democratic unions? Where have been the internal forums for debate and breaking down the silos so that people who are doing the union work understand like how the union actually functions? And you got your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback a little bit on what you were just saying and Eric was just saying, which is that, that I would question where the motivation of, aren't you worried that you're bringing it out in public? Everyone, what I know is the experience that we've had at Altdebate Summit. We've been involved for a long, long time. Mike, Eric, Mark, myself have been third time on the bargaining team, have been reps and, spoken and to all the nurses. I came out of my little NICU bubble when I got on the bargaining team and got to know the rest of the hospital. And, I walk through the hospital now and people recognize me and people come to me for questions, and they are people who are unhappy with what is happening, with the direction or the lack of direction of what is happening in our union, of the representation or the lack of representation that they're getting. And the union's consistent MO or operational handbook or whatever is to throw shade, is to say, oh, well, they're anti-union people, or, they're not really, you don't really understand, you don't really know what's going on. And that, when people hear that, when people who know me and know Eric and know Mark and know Michael Hill hear us described in that way, because they know us, they know that that's not true. And it just makes the union look even worse. It's like they're grasping at straws. A few years ago, Eric and I wanted to share the chief nurse rep role in our union. And we heard from an insider that they were told, the staff people at the union were told, anyone but Ann and Eric. So they would much rather have someone who had no involvement, who had been at the hospital for a year or two, than have us who knew the nurses, who had walked the walk and talked the talk. And Eric, I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn here, but that just, to me, that spoke volumes about the straws that they were grasping, the fingernails just barely on the ledge of control that they were holding on to, that they were not willing to use us in a role that would have been a really good organizational role at this facility. So, anybody who is concerned about airing the dirty laundry in public, I think the answer is, if the union was doing their job, there wouldn't be any dirty laundry. There would be no need to bring the things to the forefront that you do. Oh, you wish that we had talked to somebody else? We did. We talked to a lot of other people. And, oh, I don't know, the buck kept getting passed. I don't know about that. That wasn't my job, or I never heard about that. You can only, as a thinking, educated adult, you can only listen to that for so long. And after a while, what becomes clear is that they are tone deaf. So is it time to take back our union? Hell yes. hell yes. That's
I-
it. That's but
I love it, Ann. Does anyone else want to, like, talking about what we're planning on doing going forward? So we're talking about continuing to build leadership, building out our infrastructure, nurse-focused education, looking at contesting. A thing we haven't talked about is contesting leadership in our hospitals. And, we have facilities here in Chicago where people are going to be retiring in, a year or two. So I think we need to be looking at cultivating leadership, not just in our, not just at the national level, but at our local level, because our facilities are where we've got the most strength in the first place. And providing the kind of information about how to continue to build that leadership and rank and file militancy, rank and file action. The rank and file spirit scares some people in our union. And I think that we need to be doing everything we can to cultivate that, so that even, in spite of leadership that we find is lacking, it's hard to stand in the way of real rank and file organization. Bridget, you've got your hand up, and then Mark, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there's like a couple people on here from Cook County, and I think all of us are a little newer to being involved in the union. So for us, I think even like figuring just how to be nurse reps, going through nurse rep training, how to file grievances, how to do things on our own instead of depending on union staff would be great. I know that Kamika's on here, and she's been talking with our union staff members about their staffing in the NICU and on and off. And she's expressed interest in being a nurse rep, but somehow she just can't get like the nurse rep sheet with the 5 signatures you got to fill out. So it's almost like they don't want us. I mean, it might have to do with the fact that Kamika has shift change buttons all over herself. But it seems like they're actively trying to push some of us out. So there needs, I know like Barb and Kamika, Gracie, I talked to John about this. We would like to go to some kind of nurse rep training where we can figure out how to do things on our own, because I think a little bit of the problem is you're kind of like, we just don't know where to go. If that makes sense.
A thing that we can do, Bridget, if we don't, like one of the tasks that we can take up if we don't win is coming up with our own nurse rep training. So we can have training not only for people who want to be nurse reps, because we've seen the nurse rep training that we get and we find it to be a little lacking. But we have veteran nurse reps who want to like learn how to do things like filing unfair labor practices, both against the employer or for failure to represent. That's a thing that now we have nurses from the VA who are, who have been able to do that. And I want to be able to take those skills. We all have all these great skills, and we need to be sharing them with each other and bringing new people in with them. Barb, do you want to respond to that? Yeah. Go ahead. Or Bridget,
I was
go ahead.
going to just say that, like even figuring out how to file grievances when things go wrong. Like I could probably figure out how to file a grievance, but then like, what are the steps from there? What happens? I don't know any of this.
Well, and not only that, but yeah, I was going to say, sorry to cut you off, Mark.
No,
I see
you're
your
fine.
hands up. No, but totally agree with Bridget. Like it makes sense, like for us to be able to continue to be the union without the staffers. But I got to tell you guys, it really irritates me because they're the ones who are being paid to do it, right? Like we all have full-time jobs. This is a full-time job to handle the level of grievances and just it's like the Wild West over here at county, like anything goes, right? So you're constantly on the phone, like trying to field things and trying to figure things out. And so it irritates the daylights out of me that we have to go around them. That's the part that irritates me. But I agree, Bridget, we have no other choice.
Well, and I think we can look at it as like the long picture. Like, if our union reps aren't doing stuff and maybe we can help people in small ways, that's just going to show them in the next 3 years, right? Who are they going to vote for?
100%. I agree.
Plus, we've got some little toxicity right now, which I think we need to bring a little positivity to our union, because I think a lot of nurse reps don't want to join because of we have some certain kind of harsh personalities. I'll leave it at that.
For sure.
Mark, you've had your hand up for a little bit. You've been patient. You want to go
Oh,
ahead?
yeah. Well, just to backtrack a little bit on what you were saying, John, about there being positions in leadership going to be coming up in years because people will be retiring. And also in regards to what Anne had mentioned, the only reason there's not a chief nurse rep at Alta Bates is because the union has blocked that. And I would think that I would put forward that perhaps chief nurse reps should be voted on by their peers and their locations, and not the uppers of CNA leadership. So you want to foster leadership. Obviously, people that within a hospital are going to rise to the top, and people are going to know them through their reputations and having worked with them side by side. And they're going to follow that person naturally, not just because the union chose them, but because they've naturally risen to the top and they have that familiarity with everybody and that implicit trust. So I really think that the chief nurse rep should be voted on internally.
Absolutely. That was a thing that, like, I was talking with one of my coworkers about, where they're just getting fed up with the ideas, like they don't even know who our chief nurse rep is. And they're like, who is voting for these people? And the way that this is a big part of our proposal to restructure things. So it's accountable from the bottom up. Being a leader in our union should be taking responsibility and serving people who are the people who make up the vast majority of the union. And Rhonda is saying that in the VA, that leaders in their hospitals, the directors are elected by the rank and file. So I think that's a practice. I think we've got a lot to take from our sisters and brothers, siblings over in the VA, and work to bring those skills and those practices over to the rest of the union. Eric, did you have your hand up?
I did not, but I do have to tell you that as Ann Gabler and as Ann talked about, they allowed our hospital to be without a chief nurse rep. Ann, has it been 9 years now? 8 years? We've been without a chief nurse rep.
Yeah, something like that.
And Michael over at Summit has been picking up the slack, but that's a hell of a lot of slack to pick up for 2 hospitals, right? And they did it simply because Ann spoke up and would say, no, the nurses don't want that. And that upset the leaders in CNA, and they didn't want her in a position of power. They didn't want Torold, who was a former labor rep at one point, who's worked at the hospital for 30 plus years, to be the chief nurse rep, though she represents people with aplomb, as does Ann, outstandingly. I mean, everybody wants Ann or Torold to represent them, but they were not allowed to be chief nurse rep. And they didn't want us to share the position, because I thought, well, I said, if they hated Ann so much, Ann didn't want to go down and schmooze at the Union Hall. So I said, I'll go down and schmooze at the Empire, and I'll go to Sacramento and do the lobbying, and Ann could take care of all the chief nurse rep things. They still didn't even want that. They chose to harm the nurses at our facility, their oldest contract. They chose to hurt them out of pettiness. And that is something we can never forget.
one
Never.
thing that I've heard here in Chicago is that part of our woes with being short staffed in terms of hospitals or the union staff who are supposed to be, you know, helping us with these things, is that we're all being collectively punished because the last nurse who was the Midwest director was involved in some sort of internal intrigue stuff. And then the person that they kind of tried to replace her with, Danny Ritter, who many people have been very unimpressed with, when other staffers said, man, is he really the person that should be, you know, in this position? Staffers in Chicago would say, well, we just are afraid of who they're going to send next. We don't want them to send somebody worse. And I guess the way that we are, you know, we're all trying to address this by building up our, you know, by running through the, you know, to take over our union and to build our rank and file leadership. And, you know, I guess if a staff is worried that the union's going to send somebody worse, then the people who we think are letting, you know, Cook County Hospital like run shadow layoffs and fire people outside of the contract with impunity, kind of run our local political campaigns into the ditch for ratios, that sort of thing. Well, I guess they're going to have to deal with us, you know, if we're going to be the ones, hopefully, shortly sending the replacements who are going to be really changing how this all works. So, Eric, you got your hand up, and I just want to point out it's been about an hour, and it's getting late on the East in Eastern Standard Time. So maybe we could look to wind this call down.
I just wanted to mention what you said there, John, is that I know we've addressed this at other YouTube meetings, the meetings we've had here. To think back, our union believes that this shift change movement was actually orchestrated by a labor rep who was disgruntled with them. And that I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this, and I want you to think about it. How does that reflect on our union? That they think that we as nurses are incapable of organizing ourselves and pushing back against our union. They think we could not do it unless we had the aid of some recalcitrant, rebellious labor rep that left them.
Eric, they think it's 2 director level former directors. 2 or 3 former directors are doing this, not just like a former labor rep.
Yeah, thank you for. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So that just goes to show you that they don't hold us in esteem. They do not think we're capable. They think we're sheeple, that we're to be led around because we don't deserve the right to make decisions for ourselves. That is the ultimate in disrespect. That is the ultimate when you hear Zenny Cortez say, I trust the people around me. I trust the labor reps to make decisions for me. I trust, but I verify. I have a mind. I'm a critical thinker. I think every nurse is a critical thinker. We need to be allowed to make decisions for ourselves. How dare they usurp our ability to make decisions, or to deny us, or to actually think that we are incapable of making those decisions. If that doesn't call for a movement, if that doesn't register with nurses that they need to rise up, then I don't know what else needs to be said. And John, everybody here, all of us at Altabates, and I know throughout at Cook County and at UC and wherever you are, you know that we were not directed by any director. We are here because we were fired up and disgusted with the way we were treated by our union. When they cry at me and say, you shouldn't have made this public. No, I should have made this public. It should have been public a long time ago. We're now going to have to turn around what I call it the Titanic. We need to turn this around before it hits the iceberg and there's no more. We need to change this union. We are nurses. We don't need a director to think for us. We don't need anybody to think for us. We need the facts and we need things to be truthful, and we can make good decisions. And if we don't all agree, we can come to an agreement for the best of all of us. And so that's important for me to say that, because I am tired of hearing about how I'm manipulated and that there's somebody pulling the strings behind me. Nobody pulls my strings. Nobody pulls Mark's or John's or Tish's or anybody else on this call. We are who we are because we're independent thinkers. How disrespectful for our union to think we're being manipulated. Go ahead, John. I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you.
No worries. I was just reminded, we've got the Writers Guild strike that's happening right now. And I was looking at some old pictures of when those workers were going on strike back in the 40s and 50s. And one of the strike members one of the striking writers had or from the animators strike, had a picket sign with Pinocchio on it and said, "There are no strings on me." So I just want to say that, this is our last call before we go into this election. I want to say that it's been an absolute honor and privilege to be able to organize with all of you. Every one of you has makes me proud to be a union nurse, makes me proud to be part of our union, but because all of us care so much. People who don't care don't speak up. And every one of you I know cares deeply about our union, about nursing, about our everything that we're doing. And I just want to say that, I can't imagine my life going forward without knowing all of you now. You've all built something that's incredible and impressive. And I just want to say that, it's been an honor and a privilege. And I swear I'm getting a little teary eyed because of how happy I am to have been able to do something that we're making history. Win, lose, or draw, we're the first challenge to our union's leadership in 27 years. And that really does mean something. And we're going to make sure that we don't fade away. And this is, this is a big step in a journey, and we're going to keep fighting because we care. So anyway, I just want to say it to all of you guys. I'm so proud to know you all and to have been able to organize with you all. So on that note,
John, you've done a tremendous amount of work, and you're to be commended and thanked, for all these Zoom meetings, for all the talking that you've done. It's thank you so much. You've done a wonderful job of things. We've all done our piece. I think you did a little bit more, and just want to acknowledge that.
None of us would be here without each other. So I just want to say, everybody, thank you all. Let's wind down the call, and we will touch base through the chat and keep track of how things are going, and everyone will be doing updates. If we win, we can do a Zoom call, and then I think one of our big first steps, if we win, is we're planning on having an actual gathering party of all the people together. And I think that the Cook County nurses said it. I wasn't the one that made the suggestion. Going to have it in Chicago, so all the people from all over the country who have made this happen can come in from everywhere, because we're all going to be in Oakland anyway in October. So, but we'll take some time on that, and we will get a little bit of time to breathe, and then we'll come up with a plan, and we're all going to get together. And Tish, you're going to make sure you're in charge of the keg, okay?
And we are going to have Lou Malnati's, right? Lou Malnati's.
You better believe it. Yep, deep dish.
And we're going to make sure that we get we'll fire up the karaoke machine, and Tish, you can laugh at all of us while we're making fools of ourselves. So anyway, we'll end the call for tonight, and we'll call it. And like I said, everybody, you've all made me so incredibly proud to be a nurse and to be a union nurse. And I'm just happy to call you all brothers and sisters. So you guys have a good night, And
night.
we'll see you all this week, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate you. Like more than you know.
Solidarity forever.
Yeah. Thanks,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.